What's going on, everybody? This be your boy
DJ Anonymous.
DJ Anonymous with another episode of Sports Biz Music, the podcast, and I have a very, very special guest on the show today. I have my boy Michael McManus, 1/3 of the Gamblers. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for coming on the show. I know as an artist, it's crazy right now, especially with the latest single that y'all just put out. So I already know it's kind of crazy right now. But thank you for coming on the show and taking up the time to do so.
Of course, man. No, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
So before we get into the questions and the conversation, introduce yourself to the listeners of the show.
Yeah, my name's Michael McManus. I'm from Long Island, New York. Our band's called Gamblers. We are, depending on when this is going to drop, we're either just about or will have just released our new EP called When We Exit. It's coming out August 5th. Our first record, Small World, came out in 2020, and before that, I was doing a lot of producing and grew up playing in bands and stuff like that. And yeah, like you said, it's been busy, but just trying to every day just see what we could do to kind of like move things forward.
Mm-hmm. So before we get into the group itself, let's start off with you. Like, what made you want to get into music?
I sometimes I'll tell this story of like I was riding in a car, like when I was maybe 5 years old, and I heard a song on the radio, called "You Don't Bring Me Flowers Anymore," and I started crying.
Wow.
And my mom like pulled the car over, and she was like, "Why are you crying?" And I actually told her that I made up a lie. I said I was car sick. I said my stomach hurt. But the reality was that actually the music had moved me enough to become emotional. And I didn't comprehend at 5 years old that there was nothing wrong with that. Like that was okay. You know what I mean? I thought there was like something wrong with me. So I was embarrassed and I lied about it. But so the point of that story is like, just from a really young age, music always, spoke to me. And then I got into playing instruments when I was really young. I started playing drums when I was 6, and then I got into like the school bands and started playing in, little bands around town in like middle school. I even actually had like a quote unquote band with the guy who's currently the drummer of Gamblers. He's been my best friend for like 25 years or something crazy like that. I think exactly, because I think we met in 97. So we had a little like band, and then I started touring a little bit as I got older with like different bands, and then I got into production stuff. Started making like electronic music and hip hop music. And then kind of came back to the band thing with Gamblers the last bunch of years, and I've just been focusing on that. I don't have like too much music in my family in terms of history, although what I didn't realize until I got a little bit older is that my grandfather actually was in like a Latin band back in the day in the 50s, and they played around the city in Brooklyn and stuff like that. And then my great grandfather was also a percussionist in a Latin band. One of my uncles was like he did fairly well as a musician, and he played on like some more famous recordings of Latin artists from like the 50s and 60s. But other than that, like not too much. So yeah, it was just something that I gravitated towards, and I decided at a really young age that I was just gonna kind of go for it. And that's really been the last 20 years, on and off, of course. I've had side jobs, and I've only been kind of like really just doing music full time the last couple of years. because obviously it's a hard thing to get to that point. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, it's always been there, and I guess for whatever reason, like combination of luck and determination.
Mm-hmm.
I say luck meaning like having supportive people around you, like my family and friends, and not everybody is lucky in that sense.
Yeah, of course.
So I had a good group of friends and a good environment that was able to foster that love and appreciation, and I've just been following that ever since.
Man, it's like the same with me. When it
Yeah,
comes to music, like when I got a little bit older, I found out that I had an uncle. You know about the Casey and Sunshine Band.
of course.
The drummer Robert Johnson. That was my grandmother's brother. So that was my grand
Huh.
uncle. So she used to
That's
always
cool,
talk.
man.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. Like every time I listen to when he was the drummer at the time, I'm like, dang, like, cause sometimes you do want to know like how for us it's music. So it was like, where did it come from? Cause it had to come from somewhere. So with you talked about you said your grandfather and your great grandfather, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was my grand uncle and my great grand uncle, Bernard Mackey. He was the one of the background singers or lead singer. Like he was a tweener for the Ink Pots. That was like way back in the day. That was like in the 50s too, 40s and 50s. So it's
For
like
what was the group?
it's called the Ink Pots. The Ink
Gotta
Pots.
look them up.
Yeah, look them up. It's like from it was crazy because I'm an alumni from FIU, Florida International University, and sometimes I just look up my family, my family like past, and it was a young lady like recently. I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago. She actually wrote about the ink pots, which was kind of crazy because you know one the ink pots was from back in them days in the 40s and the 50s, they was well known, but it wasn't like on that level. Like a lot of people don't know about the ink pots. And then two, she specifically talked about my uncle Bernard Mackey. Um, on my mom, my grandma, her family all from the Bahamas, so he was straight out of the Bahamas, and one of the things that he did growing up was he loved to sing, and they had an article was I kind of was emotional because it was from like 1999. They had like he was inducted into like the Hall of Fame or something down here in Miami, and there was a
Oh
picture,
wow.
and in the picture it showed my great grand aunt. I think it was my grandma cousin. It was my grandma. It was from like '99, and I almost teared up.
Wow.
I was trying to look for the girl too. I'm like, I'm trying to tell her like just ask her questions and tell her thank you for doing that because it was so random. So it's like music is like sports. It's like once the bloodline, is in it, you in it. You never know. Years from now, you may have a great grandchild. It may skip generations, but that great grandchild is gonna take up, the talent that that you done. So it's a beautiful feeling, and I can, I'm just saying I can relate to it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I often think of it in those terms relating to sports. I mean, I happen to be a big sports fan, particularly Yankees.
Oh my god.
Um, but sorry, is that no good? I don't know where you.
They do. They do.
Don't
We
tell me
gonna
you're a Red Sox fan.
we gonna talk about that too a little bit later. But they are doing good though. Then I can't hate my wife. She's from New York and she love the Yankees, and I'm like, yeah, they doing
There
real
you
good.
go. Yeah, but I mean, like, I think of it in those terms, like, you know, sometimes you'll get an opportunity to do something cool, like we played Brooklyn Bowl a few months back, or like, oh, we got on the radio, or oh, this song's doing well. But most of the time it's like you're in the cage, you know what I mean? Like you're in the batting cage, or like you're practicing. Like that's the mentality you have to have. You like stay ready for when the opportunity presents itself, and then when you get an opportunity, you try to run with it. I mean, it's not really cool to talk about music like that, but like like at least in like a lot of the circles that we kind of are in sometimes, where it's like a lot of the indie or like the kind of like stereotypical like Brooklyn like hip scene. It's like it's not cool to try sort of thing. You know what I mean? I don't subscribe to that at all. Like I'm very forthcoming with like, hey man, like I'm trying to do this, like let's do this.
Right.
So obviously it's relevant for your show.
Of course.
But yeah, man, I think about that. I think in those terms a lot.
So before we get into the group and the story how it was brought up, how was it, growing up in New York? Because from what I understand, because I think you're the second or third person that's from Long Island. Long Island is not in the city, right?
It's outside of the 5 boroughs. So I'm from Nassau County, really the border of Nassau and Suffolk, but it's like the 5 boroughs. Nassau County is bordering Queens and Brooklyn.
Okay.
So it's like from where I grew up, it's about an hour.
Okay.
But it's obviously it's a big place, so I'm like considered more Western. But yeah, no, it's outside of the boroughs. But there's a lot of people out here.
Yeah, Long Island. I heard some like I mean, you could break it down a little bit because I had a guest from a couple years ago, and she was telling me that how like Long Island is, is even though it's not part of the city, it's like from what she told me, when tourists go to Long Island, they can still feel like they still like in New York City in a way, just because of the culture. So I mean, from your perspective, how would you break down Long Island?
I mean, it's interesting. I think it's very different from the city, and I've lived in the city. I've lived in Brooklyn, but and I also have a lot of family in the city, so I'm kind of like I've always kind of been on both sides of the equation when it comes to the city of Long Island thing. Long Island it's an interesting place, man. I kind of like think of it as like peeling back the layers of the onion. Like it's not really what meets the eye. Like you might see suburban, you might see, like you don't see what's behind the surface. There's a lot of dark things that go on.
Right.
The area that I grew up in, particularly, like the opioid epidemic, which I write a lot about, because it affected a lot of people close to me. My neighborhood in particular was a mafia neighborhood growing up. We grew up around the block from John Gotti Jr. When the Gambino crime family was.
That's the Italian mafia, right?
Yeah. So it's like things like that. It's like there's a lot of corruption. I mean, a lot. Like, I almost want to say like, I mean, just in the last 5 years, I mean, the district attorney of Suffolk County, the police chief of Suffolk County, and the county executive of Nassau County, and the overseer of the town of Oyster Bay, which is the area that I grew up in. All of those people went to prison. All of them. So it's like it's not like a bad apple thing. It's like corruption is entrenched in the fabric of Long Island, and that's indisputable. That's not my opinion. That's a fact.
That's fact. Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's like, and then in the last decade plus, we have like the Long Island serial killer. Where I don't know if you know about that, but it's
I
a
heard.
lot of like a lot of sex workers went missing, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot of corruption involved in that. And there was a cover up, and they kicked the FBI out, and we could do a whole podcast just on that. People listening right now probably laughing because I always bring up I always bring this case up. But I mean, that's just to give you. And I'm not. I love Long Island. Don't get me
Hmm.
wrong. It's like I actually. It's kind of like the little brother thing, like where like you could talk shit, but if you hear someone else talking shit, you're like, hey man, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it's still where you come from.
exactly.
Yeah, cause
So I mean, but I love it. There's a lot of good things about it still. I mean, there's a lot of negative, but I don't know, man. It's home is where the heart is, I suppose.
so automatically you are a Islanders fan. You're not a Rangers fan. You
You
talk,
know, I gotta be honest. Like I go more towards the Rangers just because
oh wow.
First of all, I'm not a big hockey fan, and like the Islanders fans are so annoying, dude. Like they're really annoying out here. So I kind of, I just kind of enjoy, and I also kind of consider the Islanders like really closely linked with the Mets. So I kind of put them in that box. Um,
Mm. Oh yeah, you throwing shit.
and
I
I grew,
mean, I don't got no love for the Mets. I'm a Marlins fan, so yeah, I ain't gonna stick up for them. I'm not gonna
so
stick up for the Mets.
you're upset that we have Giancarlo now. That's why you hate the Yankees.
You know what? To speak about that real quick, all right. So growing up, being I love all my Miami teams. Even though the Panthers they not well, Miami is a very unique place because I'm glad you talked about Long Island because Miami's kind of like the same. Um, we don't have boroughs, but we have like we go by like districts and we go by like cities and stuff. So when a lot
Yeah,
of like the New Yorkers or even now the Californians they come down, they
yeah.
start noticing that Miami, like the actual city of Miami, is not it's not like New York City. It's not like L.A. in terms of land. Like it's a lot of people that live there, but it's not. It's not really that big. It's just that we use the surrounding areas. Like you got the city of Miami, then you got other cities like Hialeah, Miami Gardens, Coral Gables, just to name a few. Then you got the whole South Florida, which consists of Broward, West Palm Beach, the Keys. So when it comes to Tri-County, I think we the third or fourth biggest Tri-County in the nation. But when it comes to like the actual city of Miami, we not even. I don't even think we. I think we. Louisville is bigger than us. Like bigger than the actual city of Miami. But anyway,
That
growing.
is interesting because you
Yeah,
think of Miami. You do think of Miami as a major city, which obviously it is a major
it
city. But
is.
I guess at this point people don't realize,
Cause like Atlanta, um, it's just different. Like Atlanta is small, but it's a major city now. But we not like when I compare us to like other southern cities or southern places, it's just different because you know Houston, New Orleans. I can kind of compare us more to like a New Orleans in a way because New Orleans got like towns and cities within, and they have other parts of cities, but it's in the same county. So that's like Miami. Like you got Miami, the actual city of Miami. Then you got Miami-Dade County, which consists of different cities like within and towns. But when I was growing up as a Marlins fan, they used to always say like we was a small market team. But when they talk
right?
about the Dolphins, they talk about recently the Heat. Of course, it was like a Hurricanes town. The Marlins and the
Yeah,
Panthers was always considered, and still is a small market, teams. So I was young when they won their first championship. Like I was a baby. So
97.
yeah,
Yep,
'97
I
when we beat
remember
the
it well.
Indians. Well now they what they call it the Galaxies, I think.
Guardians.
The Guardians, yeah.
Yeah, that was the Levon Hernandez with the big strike zone.
Yes.
That's that was. I remember that. I remember when the Marlins were formed because I used to go down to Florida a lot. I mean, I'm probably a bit older than you, but I was a kid. Don't get me wrong, but like I have pictures. I used to go down with my grandparents and stuff, and they bought me like a Marlins hat when they came out. The Marlins they came out in '93, and they won in '97. So they won, Gary Sheffield, the whole thing.
Man, Gary Sheffield.
Yeah, man.
It's just, and that's one thing that hurts us down here. So, just make a long story short, just like with the 03 team, when we beat the Yankees, I was like, because you got to
don't remind me.
but you got to think in mind.
Freaking fucking Josh Beckett, man. I hate Josh Beckett with all my life. Josh Beckett, and then he became a fucking Red Sox. I don't know if I can curse on this part, but
no, you can.
Josh Beckett, man. I hate Josh Beckett.
And Josh Beckett was something else, but that's like, Mad Dog that be on ESPN. Hopefully,
yeah. Well, I remember. I know him from Mike and the Mad Dog, but now he's on ESPN. Yeah.
And I respect him. He's a legend. I want to interview him one day, but he had to understand that. Like for the Marlins, for example, the reason why a lot of people don't go to the games because they lost trust within the last some odd years. Because every time we get talent, we always get talent. Like
they leave. Yeah.
Always.
They get rid of them.
Yeah, we get rid of them, and it's like
I know.
When I look at the team and the era we in, I'm like, the Marlins, like we should be one of the, like, I'm not saying we the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox or even the White Sox, the bigger markets, but we should.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, like we should be like the Atlanta, the Braves. At least they keep their core. Like I don't like the Braves or the Phillies, but they always keep their core. Yeah, same thing with the Mets. They keep their core.
Like the Phillies, the Braves have a much longer tradition, obviously, but. But no, I agree with you, and that goes back to even the '90s. They broke the team down after they won the World Series. Yes. They could have kept the team together. No, so let me ask you, and I probably know the answer already, but how did you feel about the Derek Jeter experiment?
At first, and I love Derek Jeter. That's the only Yankee. I love all the Yankees. I love like the, Mariano Rivera's. I love that. That's legends. I can't deny it. Yeah. It's just, I think the reason why I don't like the Yankees like that is because, it's a lot of, we don't get this to a defense, but, it's from anywhere from like, us Southern people, like when people come from anywhere outside the South, or even sometimes like you could be from Georgia and come to Florida, we'll call you a transplant because it's like, it's so many people from all over that's in Florida. But
that's a lot of Florida, man. It's crazy. I mean, New York too, though. But
yeah, because which is crazy because there's a lot of Florida people that move up to New York too. I don't know how because it's cold, but the Derek Jeter experiment, to me, when you look at it now, I see why he left because the pieces that we got. The prospects, the draft picks. I mean, if you look at our team now, what we just really need, we need a little bit more offense. Our pitching is crazy. It's like a 1-2-3 punch. Now we got I forgot his name, but it's a prospect that just moved up and he did good. I think it was last week. It was this past Sunday. At first I was kind of mad when he kind of left, but then when I learned the story about like he wanted to sign some veteran, pieces around the team because our team is very young, but it's talented. And I'm like, I was that fan. Like the first year, I said, Jeter, I love you, but as an owner / GM, you got 5 years. Cause
absolutely, that's fair. And by the way, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair. Like if you're going to tell me 2 years, I'd say that's not fair. But 5 years is a fair,
it's fair.
But granted, if he was able to do what he wanted to do, and it sounds like that was not the case.
Yeah, because it's something it's something about the Marlins. Because even I know the Dolphins, they don't have the best of luck either. But that's just because Dan Marino, since the Dan Marino days, we haven't really been that good. Like like once again, I was young when Dan Marino retired and stuff. And I used to always hear like the older people say, "Oh, you know what Dan Marino was?" I said, "Well, we need a quarterback. We need something."
So let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about the whole possible Tom Brady, Sean Payton scenario with the Dolphins?
Now that once again, I don't. You see, I'm a true Miami fan. I ain't like the Patriots, and I ain't like Tom Brady, but
of course,
unbiased, I was like, man, if we would have had Tom Brady, we would have had a ring, and I would have called him the GOAT. I'm like, we haven't won a championship in years.
Even with Marino, never won.
Huh?
Even with Dan Marino, they never won.
Yeah,
they made it to one. That was it.
And Dan Marino was he was like when I look at his stats, he was the GOAT, but he's like the GOAT quarterback that never won. Like he's up, like you got Dan Marino, Jim Kelly. Oh my gosh, like it's a lot of them. My favorite quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. At least they got one or two. But to see the other quarterbacks, like the grace to never win, like it's crazy. But
it's interesting. You see Sean Payton now already, not even a year into retirement. He just retired, already talking about coming back. So you have to wonder, after this season, Brady is done with his Buccaneers contract. Now, I guess it's probably not going to happen because he signed that deal with. Did he sign a deal with Fox?
Yeah,
to become an announcer. So, but it would have been interesting to see if Sean Payton still tries to get back to the to go to the Dolphins, if you believe that report, and then if Brady is going to try to do that. But I guess he's going to be the announcer now because he signed that deal.
But you know what? Thank God that I got into podcasting, because it's like podcasting is like you in the media now. So like I got this weird thing where I'm like, all right, let me snoop, because I should dig before because I was a sports fan, but I had to dig more into the story. So apparently it was gonna be real because first of all, Brady, he got property that he's building down here in was it Indian Creek Island? That's like on the beach somewhere. It's like I've never been there before, but it's one of them islands where I would want to have a house. If I become a millionaire one day, I would have a house out there because it got a whole, like, it's not like Star Island, like over there. It's like they actually have a lot of land, so you could build a mansion and still have, yard and stuff. But he wanted, the thing was that once he signed with us, apparently he wanted to have like him and Sean Payton wanted to have ownership in the Dolphins. And,
right.
I was like, man, we could have had Tom Brady and Sean Payton. We would have won a ring because our defense alone, even this year, is going to be top 5, top 10, just the pieces that we have. And then the offense that we had, even before Tyreek Hill came, I still think we could have got Tyreek Hill because we would have had Brady.
You got Tyreek Hill.
We got Tyreek Hill now. But I'm saying if we would have signed Brady, then they would have made that move anyway because it's Brady. But man, I couldn't imagine that. And my best friend, shout out to him. Me and him known each other for like over 20 years, like almost 30. But he's a big Brady fan. And I was telling him, like, how you a Brady fan but you a Dolphin fan? But then when I went the same division and stuff. So it's like,
not now.
Yeah, not now. But it's like when I'm talking to a Bears fan, they'll say, you know what? I don't like the Packers, but I love Aaron Rodgers. I always respected Brett Favre. So it's kind of the same thing. But
Aaron Rodgers has really I've kind of soured on him the last few years because he seems like such a fucking diva. And I don't even mean about the vaccine shit. Like, I
Yeah,
just mean in general. Like, it just seems like he's just. I don't like people that like make it about themselves like that.
yeah,
Like he doesn't seem like the one thing you got to give Brady is like whether it's the Pats or the Bucks. Like, he does care about the team. Like he
yeah.
wants the best possible team, and he wants to like I don't know. You don't get that sense from Rodgers. Like he seems like a me person.
And I'm not defending Aaron Rodgers because when he lost in the playoffs, I was really upset with him. I'm like, dog, like you have no excuses. You finally got a defense.
No,
I just think,
all the time, always.
yeah, I just think with Aaron Rodgers though, when people got to understand though, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay as an organization, they very cheap. Like at least the Patriots, people talk about the Patriots, but at least the Patriots, if Brady wants something, they was like, hey, all right, we could get him and him and him. Like the days when they had Randy Moss, that was ridiculous. With that defense, like that
Yeah.
was ridiculous. I think with Aaron Rodgers, I think it came to a point because he was never always like that. Like he was
Right.
always laid back and stuff. But I think he just got to a point where it's like man, like y'all not gonna spend like money in free agency, or even like when they tried him with the quarterback, they drafted a quarterback, and then the year before they did something like it was ridiculous. So it's like for me, I understand Aaron Rodgers like in that perspective, but also at the same time, it's like, come on, dude, like you the greatest quarterback to ever throw a football. So it's like we like even me being I'm like when I first seen Aaron Rodgers in college, I'm like, man, this man gonna be the real deal. And I was in middle school, so it's like seeing him now. It's like, Rod, you gotta come on now. Like you got 4 years now. I want him to at
He's
least.
got to win another one. He's got to win at least one more. But I don't know, man. He doesn't get it done in the playoffs. That's another thing. He can never even Peyton Manning. Like those guys, I hear you on the talent side, but like they really don't hold up to Brady when it comes to the postseason. I mean, maybe Patrick Mahomes could catch Brady, maybe, but I don't even know about that anymore because of the last couple of years. Like, but those guys, man, they just don't. I mean, Manning got another one with the Broncos, obviously, but yeah, I don't know.
But this is because we could talk about this all day too. Football season coming up too. But
I can't wait.
But real quick about the Stanton trade, my wife, of course, I told you her family's from New York and she's a Yankees fan and everything. Her cousin-in-law, he's from Jersey. No, I think he either from Jersey or he's from Jersey, but he grew up a Yankees fan. And when he got Stanton, he was one of the first people to call me, and he was like laughing in my face. But I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, Stanton didn't want to be here for a rebuild, so it was like,
yeah.
And then same thing what happened with Christian Yelich. Like he didn't want to be.
Oh, Christian Yelich,
yeah. Christian Yelich. He didn't want to be here for a rebuild once Stanton was gone, once Ozuna was gone. It was just, I don't know, man. It's something about the Marlins, man, because we always get talent. We always, like, one thing about the Marlins, they always get talent. Like, I feel huh?
No, absolutely right. And then you have like the Jose Fernandez situation.
Oh yeah, that's
it's just like crazy shit.
Yeah, like that was it was eerie that day because I'll never forget that day. I was going out of town with my wife and her family, my in-laws, and I think my best friend, we had a group chat, and he was like, man, Jose Fernandez died. That was like the whole city, the whole South Florida, like it was just quiet that whole week. Like it was like when Sean Taylor passed away, because Sean Taylor was a Redskin, but he was from here. It had that type of energy. Like it was just, people couldn't believe it. You know.
You see those pictures too. They're pretty crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the boat flipped over. You're like, dang, that's oof.
Yeah,
like imagine hitting that fucking thing, like however fast they were going, like.
mm-hmm.
Oof.
Because apparently, like he was mad or something. Him and the I think his fiance was mad or something like that. I don't know. I was hearing stories, and he wanted to take a ride, and I'm just like, man, like what if? And then what's crazy was Staten. He invited Staten. He invited Zuna. He invited a few other people on the boat. Yeah, Staten talked about it. He was like, that could have been us. They could have been all gone. That would have been one of the most craziest like sports stories like ever. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that alone is still crazy, but like, imagine if Staten was in that boat. Like, come on, man. Like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was.
I thought he was just like out with like partying or whatever with like random people. I didn't know, not random people, but like in his circle or whatever. I didn't know it was like that it could have been.
Yeah, he had people in his inner circle, but he also invited like Staten, some of the Marlins players that he was close with on the team. And,
that's crazy.
Like, man, I'm like, even to this day, I talk to my homeboys about it. I'm like, even when Kobe passed away, I'm like,
oh man,
Kobe, and Kobe, especially for me, Kobe was my Jordan. So
sure.
Like Jordan, when I was young, Jordan won his 2 last championships. I kind of remember a little bit, but I was real young. But Kobe and Shaq, eventually, Bron and Melo, and of course Dwayne Wade. Like I remember them era, but Kobe was like my Jordan. Even when that happened, I couldn't. My wife seen my face. I'm like, oh, like
that was hard. That was hard to believe. That was hard to believe. I still remember where I was. My friend called me, and he was like, "Did you hear what happened?" And I'm like, "No." And he told me Kobe Bryant died, and I'm like, that was hard to believe because it's like people like that are just they're just larger than life,
right.
And then when you hear something like that, it's just like it just doesn't even compute. Let me ask you this though: What was it like? What was it like the night that LeBron announced he was coming to Miami?
Oh, that's when I still respect LeBron. I think the reason why I didn't like LeBron afterwards was because when he left, I felt like they could have had one more year. But that was amazing. I actually went to the event when they did when they introduced the Big Three. I was in the snow and I was like in the 300s, of course, but because the tickets was free when they did the announcement, like when they all introduced themselves. But
I remember that. But what was it like when it was like? Remember LeBron went to high school, like yeah.
Oh yeah, the YMCA. Yeah, I was jumping up and down. I was like, yes. I was like, man, we finna win championships now.
Did you guys down there think he was coming, or was it a complete surprise?
Well, of course, we heard stories about him going to the Knicks, going to the Clippers, the Bulls. That whole summer was crazy because we thought Wade was gonna leave because there was a lot of rumors. Remember Wade? It was supposed to be Wade, Bosh, and LeBron going to Chicago. In reality, Carmelo was supposed to be a free agent that year, but he signed that extension when he was a Knicks, so he so he didn't want to be a free agent. Because it was really supposed to be.
Was he on the Knicks? Was he on the Knicks yet in 2010?
No,
I think he came in 11.
11. No, that's when he was with the Nuggets. Yeah, so it was with the Nuggets, and I think he had the extension or something like that. Then he got traded to the Knicks. Yeah, you right. Yeah, and but that man, that the whole summer was just, man, we about to go crazy and stuff. We about to go crazy, and we did, but we lost to the Mavericks. Dirk that year, he was crazy that year. Like, he beat Kobe and the Lakers. He beat OKC, that young team. He beat the Spurs with Tim Duncan. Like that whole run That's one of the best runs ever.
Right. That was 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was crazy, and you know, we lost the first time. We won 2 straight, and then when we lost to San Antonio, we already knew LeBron was gonna leave. Um, he wanted to go back because that whole year it was rumored that he wanted to go back to Cleveland.
I thought that was weird. I'd like to leave and then come back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it worked out. They won a championship, and then he left again. I'm like,
Yeah,
what? Like, it was weird, you know? Like,
I
I don't know. Like,
I think for me that's why. Don't get me wrong, LeBron. And when people just listen to me because you know I got friends that we argue back and forth. LeBron is the greatest basketball player of this era, but
agree.
when I look at Michael Jordan,
You can't. No.
the man, like people like, well, you never seen Jordan like that. I said, well, you got kids now. Like I have interviewed kids that's like, well, young. I don't want to say kids, but young men that was born in 2000s, like early 2000, 2001, 2002. They didn't even seen like people like Allen Iverson and stuff like that. They seen like mid late Kobe Bryant. You know what I'm saying? Like Stephen Curry and James Harden is like they're like players. You know.
Those are those guys. They're guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and LeBron is like
Steph Curry.
yeah, Steph Curry, yes, especially, and I love Steph Curry. But first
I think this championship they just won
mm-hmm.
did a lot
It
for
did.
their legacy.
It
a
did.
lot. This championship they just won is like they won the Yankees won in 2009.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, boom. Like, they already were a dynasty, and 2009 was a long time removed from 2000, so it's a little bit different with the Yankees. It's not that long with the Warriors. But the fact that, and make no mistake, the fact that they won again without Durant is a big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. And it bodes really poorly for Durant.
Yeah. Because I was telling people, I said, people called me crazy. I told people, I said, even them during them 2 years when the Warriors was bad, I said, Steph Curry going to win the championship before KD. Watch. Even with him and Kyrie going to the Brooklyn Nets, I said,
what a disaster.
Matter of fact, let me ask you this: how because being so close to that, like, how is it? Like,
you want me to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit about the Brooklyn Nets. Nobody. They can't. They try so hard to manufacture it. They try to market it. They try to do this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares. It's a Knicks town. Period. Point blank. End of story. It's the Knicks. I mean, you know, like, was that like interesting to hear that Durant was going to the Nets and like Kyrie wanted to be with the Nets because he grew up a New Jersey Nets fan and this and that? But like, I don't know, man. Kyrie is like, he's a head case. I don't think there's any denying that at this point. Like, everywhere he's been, it's been a problem. So at what point do you go, okay, like, is everybody else wrong or are you the problem? You know,
Kyrie the problem.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, come on, man. And then like, for Durant to like request a trade, it's like, dude, I don't know, man. I think he fucked up leaving OKC in the first place.
Because they would have won a championship. I mean, like,
they could have.
You
know, they had Westbrook and Harden, and they could have. I don't know, man. I think it's like, it's cooler to win with your own team. Like, I just thought that was a weird. But then again, LeBron did it too, you know.
And then people always
nobody really hates on LeBron for doing that because he's so phenomenally talented that it's like you can't, you know, what are you gonna say? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, and then people keep talking about, oh well, you know, Boston did. I said, first of all, if you look at, because I don't know if you've seen the KG documentary on Showtime. It kind of made my case. Like, basically, KG had he had control, but he didn't have control because at first,
You talking about Kevin Garnett?
yeah, Kevin Garnett, yeah, when he
No,
cause he,
I didn't know there was a doc.
yeah, it's just I forgot the name of it, but it's on Showtime, and basically he was talking about like how he almost became a Laker. Um, he was calling Kobe, and he kept trying to call him to see like, man, you want me to go to the Lakers? Cause you know that's how much respect they had for Kobe. And but then Paul Pierce kept calling him and said, man, come on, man, come on, man. Like they just waiting on you. Like they waiting on you. Like cause he had, I think, yeah, he had a no trade clause, and that's when he made the move. And then that Ray Allen, you know, people gotta understand that whole big three wasn't like planned by the players. It was like it was planned, but it wasn't
No.
planned. Like everything just fit like together. Like what's crazy is from that trade from the I think the Celtics and the Twins, the Timberwolves. What's crazy is one of them picks got traded so much that one of them picks was Jamal Murray. So Jamal Murray is one of the last players from that trade that he got. I don't know how they broke it down, but he was one of the last draft picks to be a part of that that trade, and that was like over 10 years ago. So that was a bit that it had to be a lot of moving parts for that, So I'm not a Celtics fan either,
Anything is
but
possible.
I'm not a Celtics fan either. So but I
But you know
love
what, though?
KG, love Paul Pierce, I love Ray Allen.
Uncut Gems brought me around on KG. I got to be honest. He was so good in that movie, man.
Oh yeah, that was a great movie. That was a great movie.
And he was great. Like he was like, I'm like, he was like acting great. I was like, oh shit. He was good.
Yeah. Now KG, he's a great actor. I feel like he need to do more of that. I know he got a show on Showtime.
I agree.
But he need to do more of that. So yeah, we talked about a lot. So let's get back. Let's get back to the group because I know.
Yeah.
The group.
Just a heads up, I do have to jump on a call at 5:30, which is 7 minutes away.
Okay, that's
yeah.
Yeah,
so if you want to edit that part out.
No, it's fine. No, it's podcasting. I understand that. I tell people this all the time. Everybody got stuff to do. But real quick, like two questions. How was the group created? And then how did I get that single with Mick Jenkins? Because Mick Jenkins, I love Mick Jenkins. I've been listening to him since for years, since college. So
yeah, man, thank you. I mean, as far as the group is concerned, honestly, we started the way the band started is I grew up like touring in a bunch of bands, and I was playing in this one band. I was actually playing drums, and it's funny, dude. Wow, full circle. I was on this tour. It was the summer of 2010. As a matter of fact, I remember one night in July of 2010, we were playing at this venue in Philadelphia, right outside of Philadelphia. And it was actually the night that LeBron announced he was going to Miami. Real quick aside there.
Wow.
I swear to God. But anyway, on that tour, I became really good friends with the guitar player of that band, who I was not aware of previously. And we started talking. He had like a bunch of he was going to college at the time in the city up in Harlem, and it was a recording program. So we were able to record there for free. So we got on really well on that tour, and we decided to kind of start like a side project. And that's actually how what Gamblers started as, and that was Gary O'Keefe, he's no longer in the band, but I started the band with him. And then just through the years, man, like lineup changes, like learning how to navigate like this crazy industry that we're in, and finally started putting out music. Put out our first record a couple of years back, and then we're working on our new album now, and it's basically done. But what we wanted to do was like basically not wait so long between the first and the second album because it had been so long to wait to put that first one out. So we decided to kind of like do this remix project, and we took 5 songs from the first album and just like completely remixed them. To be honest, like it's not even a remix; it's like a complete reimagination. The only thing we're using is like a little bit of percussion from one of the tracks, and then like my vocal tracks.
Okay.
But even then, we're like manipulating them, changing them around, and just building up like completely different productions. And then we wanted to get some features just to. I come from like A&Ring and doing a lot of hip hop stuff. Not that I come from that. Like I grew up like in DIY stuff, but yeah. I was producing hip hop projects for a while there, and I did a bunch of stuff. So I'm like familiar and comfortable in that world of like how to, A&R a project. So, there was a number of different features we were looking at. And then, Mick Jenkins just kind of came up as someone that I was not introduced to personally, but I was introduced to his music by some of the people that we were working on this new music with. And, we reached out and we had a meeting, and everything worked out and it looked promising. And then next thing you know, like it happened. So I got to give my hat off to Mick Jenkins on that one. Really nice guy. And obviously this track is doing really well for us, and he's a major, if no questions about it. He's the major reason why. And we're just thankful that he was a part of the project, and excited to put the rest of it out on August 5th.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for. I had heard some of y'all music from like the past, and y'all really good. Like y'all really good. Before we end the show, because I know you got a call and everything. Do you have any shout outs, and then where do you see yourself in the band 5 to 10 years from now?
Thank you, man. Geez, I mean, hopefully, playing the shows we want to play, making the music we want to make, and making connections with people, and still doing it. That would be great.
Okay.
As far as shout outs are concerned, shout out to you for having me on the show, man.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. We should do this again.
Nah, it was fun.
I don't get to talk sports too much with like people in this world, so it was a lot of fun. We should do it again.
No, we definitely. This was very fun. This like I'm not just saying this just to say it, but this is like my best like podcast this year. It's top 5 all time.
Man, thank you.
It was fun, man. It's been a while since I had this fun. Well, I always have fun on my podcast, but this was real fun, especially when you talk about sports and stuff. But
yeah, it was a nice change. Like, but most of the time, I never really talk about that stuff with the people we talk with in our world. So it's cool. It's kind of even like frowned upon sometimes. Like I have to hide how big of a sports guy I am. But no, man, appreciate you.
Nah, no problem. Thank you so much. And everybody's been your boy, DJ Anonymous, with another episode of Sports Biz Music, the podcast with my boy, Michael McManus, 1/3 of the Gamblers, and we out. Peace.